Hi guys.
Hi, lovely to see you all. So today's a first for us, I think, Dan, isn't it? We're doing a video, but we're actually doing it for the second time, having had
Yeah,
some issues.
yeah. So as you know, we're not in even though we're whilst in the loft, we're not in the loft. We're doing this via Zoom
No,
from our own homes, and we like if you've seen our videos before, we often like to have it so that one of us has spent some time with the fragrance, the other one has their first impressions. Um, which is what we tried to do before, but the audio is so bad the first time we did this, we decided to have another go. So hopefully it's a bit better.
yeah, I think it sounds better already. But what do I know?
um, right. Anyway, we'll see. So we are talking about "Song of Everlasting Sorrow" from Al-Furry. Al-Furry, I think is how you say it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
I think they are the Owl brothers. AU Owl brothers. So this is a house which I really had on my radar for this year. So if you've heard of this house, you may have heard of it because Miyako, one of their fragrances, received 5 stars from Luca Turin, and
Yeah,
also won an Art and Olfactory Award in 2016. So that's how I heard about them, and I was kind of slightly aware of them. And the fragrance before this was called Chypre Oud, which
oh,
sounds like a dream, really. And I
yeah,
saw people buying it and talking about it, and I thought, oh, I must get this. But Al-Furry produced quite small batches of things, and by the time I knew what was going on, it was too late, and it was sold out. And I was gutted because I thought it sounded absolutely amazing. So I was
absolutely.
determined the next thing I was going to get it straight away. So here it is, "Song of Everlasting Sorrow." Um, so Joe, obviously, I've had this now for a couple of months. Joe's not going to give you his first impressions. He's just going to tell you what it smells like.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I've had it for a little while now, haven't I? And loved it. I have to say, first off.
so the way, so I've sent Joe a sample of this so that we can both be smelling,
Look at that,
even though we're
neatly
quite
labelled.
yeah. So let's just chat about the house a little bit. So this is 100, and when I bought it, it was $178 for 30 mil. And about a week ago, I thought it had been discontinued actually, but I realised it's now been slightly rebranded. It's in a 40 mil bottle for $228. So if you don't know the House of Auphorie, I didn't at all before. They're two brothers, Eugene and Emmus. I think you pronounce his name. Do correct me if I've got it wrong. Two self-taught Malaysian perfumers who have, they set up in 2015, and within a year they'd won an Art and Olfactory Award, and and they'd received 5 stars from Luca Turin. So I guess that's like earning your first Michelin star in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not too
um,
not too shabby at all.
no, so that's a pretty good start. So and they make, as I said, they make these small batches. And I'm just referring to my notes to see some of what they describe as creating unique images and depictions of nostalgia and memories. And they use a large portion of rare natural ingredients. So this is one which is they refer to this as mixed media. So it's not 100% natural. It's got some synthetics in it. It's got the holy trinity of ambergris, musk, and oud. Um,
Brilliant.
so if I were to guess, I would say the musk is definitely synthetic, and the ambergris possibly synthetic, whereas the oud is possibly real. That would be my guess. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm.
Just a little
I
bit
can
more
imagine that.
a little bit more chat, and then we'll get into how it smells. So, "Song of Everlasting Sorrow" is inspired by a Tang Dynasty poet. So we're talking about 1,200 years ago in China, and it's a poem about an emperor falling in love with his favorite concubine. And one of the things they've done with this is they've recreated a recipe for Tang Dynasty incense. So it's a 1,200-year old recipe for incense. Right. Enough talk. Let's see how it smells. Well, we
Oh,
know how it smells, but should we have it? I mean, I've got one spray here, one old spray here. I'm going to put a new spray here.
I got it here already on my hand.
It's such
So good.
it's such a unique first spray. I've got to be completely honest. I told you about my story about how I came about buying this. When I saw the notes list, I wasn't, even though it does contain the Holy Trinity of Mask, Ambergris, and Oud, I wasn't wildly excited. Not necessarily that excited by the notes list as maybe I was by the Sheep Oud notes list, because I thought this might be quite light and ethereal. It's such an interesting first spray. This lychee.
Yeah, it's very lifted sort of fruitiness, isn't it?
It is. It's not. Often you get you get a kind of a bright burst of kind of citrus, be it bergamot or lemon or whatever, and this lychee at the beginning isn't. It's kind of bright and uplifting, but it's not, juicy like a bergamot or a lemon. It's
no. Slightly sort of smoked and has a slight savoury edge, doesn't it?
Yeah,
bright and savoury at the same time.
It's almost like slightly overripe lychee, a little bit. It's not the kind of the fresh spring first bite. Maybe it's sat out in the sun a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think you're right from the start. There's this smoked quality which runs all the way through.
And slightly honeyed as well. Like sort of slightly like a honeycomb, slightly burnt honeycomb.
Yeah. But it's interesting that
maybe honey's not the right word.
You said gourmand. You said savoury, but I do feel there's something about which kind of teeters between gourmand and savoury. I mean, it's not overly sweet, but there is a kind of rich, thick. Maybe it's the way the ambergris is kind of working in there, kind of creating that kind of feeling of sweetness. But very soon, like with the lychee, there's also a bit of pear, which kind of just it kind of segues perfectly from that kind of fresh, ripe, or not a fresh, overripe kind of white fruit. But this, you talked about smokiness, and this, for me, it is an incense fragrance at its heart. It's quite different,
absolutely, to
your average incense. It's not a kind of churchy incense at all.
No, it's more resinous, isn't it, than that? It seems more. I don't know. I don't know what the word is. It's got more depth than I often get with incense, and it's got more sort of treacly, sticky myrrh or something. I don't know what's giving it that.
It doesn't. I mean, I think incense can go a slightly kind of churchy way. Or it can even be taken in a slightly piney kind of woody way, whereas this isn't it. I mean, I'm no incense expert at all. I don't have much incense, but I do have a few sticks left of some incense I bought when I was in Japan, and it's a plum incense. And when you burn that, it feels there's an amazing density. There's an amazing kind of heavy feeling to it. It's not bright and sparky up and uplifting. It feels like you're engulfed by this thick, rich, almost kind of stewed fruity quality. That's slightly what I get with this. When I read the name Song of Everlasting Sorrow, I expected something perhaps a little bit melancholic and a bit light and delicate, whereas actually it's heavy and rich, and it feels like it kind of engulfs you and
totally
kind of surrounds you. And I think maybe I had this this image of cherry blossom. I mean, I know that's Japanese rather than Chinese, but my image is slightly skewed. But I of some kind of floral garden, because there are some florals as well. Already, we're starting to get. There's a bit of rose and a bit of geranium as well. A bit of kind of sharp.
Yeah,
kind of a little bit of edge, but it's not a delicate particularly bright. Even though geraniums are kind of brightish, it doesn't feel like it's a light floral incense at all.
It's slightly. I mean, I don't know if I'd mentioned this last time, but it slightly performs like a Taif rose.
Yeah.
A little bit with the geranium replacing the geranium, maybe replacing that sort of more citrusy, bright lemon opening.
Yeah.
I mean, not like a rose oud as such, but there's a sort of Taif rose, slight sweetness to it as well.
Absolutely. And then
really good. Really good.
The kind of smokiness really kind of segues into tea as well. I can't really separate the kind of tea and incense. I get kind of tea right from the beginning, and it's kind of slightly smoked, not kind of quite lapsang souchong, but it's kind of heading towards that kind of slightly kind of smoky.
Yeah.
And I know when you talk about this, we're trying to pick out notes and describe notes, but maybe it's not that helpful. I get the image of a dark room with a big dark wood kind of tea chest with kind of smoke and incense sitting and wafting around it, and it's kind of thick, and the weather is hot and slightly humid. Which is very different from what I expected to get from reading the notes list and thinking, oh, there's some bright, white fruit. It's not that. It feels heavy and rich, and maybe, and also there's some sandalwood as well, which kind of riffs on those other woody notes and adds to that kind of rich, thick kind of creaminess.
It's got depth, but it's also light at the same time. It has a sort of transparency to it. It reminds me of the kind of thing Olivier Giacobetti might do. It's got the body, but it's not thick and dense in a kind of overpowering way. No, it feels like you can still see chinks of light through it somehow.
Yeah, there is a bit of brightness, but I
don't know how.
I do. The more I wear it, I mean, that's why it's interesting to review something like this twice, I guess, because the more I wear it, the thicker it feels. And I don't know if it's because what's happened to kind of the juice in the bottle, but I'm getting more and more. I feel it as this kind of dense, rich, engulfing. I mean, it's not a beast mode fragrance. It's an awful term.
Thank God, thank God.
But what it is rich and opulent and luxurious. The other thing that I get, we won't get from spraying here, but more and more when I was wearing it, at first I thought there was a bit of cumin to the dry down, but then I realised it wasn't that. It's immortelle, and I sometimes get this slightly curried, slight, almost kind of borderline BO kind of vibe from immortelle, and I think the story that this is telling is one, of kind of real sensuality. It's a real human, sexy fragrance. It's not. I really kind of misjudged, which is maybe why you shouldn't just go buy a notes list when you're buying a fragrance. I really feel this is a dark, rich, sexy, but it's also very unlike any other fragrance that I know. I mean, if I think of other incense fragrances I love, something like Timbuktu from L'Artisan Parfumeur, this has got a completely different feel from that.
Totally.
This kind of rich, heavy, engulfing, the woodiness, and everything is, again, we always end up picking out notes when we're doing these videos, but it doesn't feel that it's a fragrance about individual notes. It's real about the kind of feel and the experience of it. Yeah.
It's an overall effect that's happening here. I mean, I've had it on for a while now, and I'm getting the immortelle, and that's giving it just a slight dirtiness underneath, but not enough to tip it over the edge. It's just a little hint, which does make it a little bit sort of animalic in a sense, sort of that human animalic thing. It reminds me. There's an Annick Goutal fragrance, and I never can remember the name of it. But there's a wonderful immortelle fragrance by Annick Goutal. Someone will remember it.
Yeah.
And it has that same treacly maple syrup on a really savoury waffle. Or was it Slow Dive by Hiram Green? You've got?
Yeah, I don't think that's got. I mean, that is a kind of savoury waffle thing. Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the savoury sweet thing going on with the honey but then this kind of
yeah.
like almost like savory bran or something like that.
Yeah.
And I get the same combination of things here.
Yeah. It's such an interesting. I mean, also because we started about talking about this holy trinity of musk, oud, and ambergris, and it's weird. I don't feel any of them are leaping out at me, but I think maybe they are just creating this animalic warmth underneath. But they're just handled so cleverly that you're not thinking of it as an oud fragrance or as a musk fragrance.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. I mean,
it's very clever
pleased.
as well.
It is. It's really clever, and I mean, as I said, I was determined to buy something, whatever they did next, and then when I saw the notes list, I was like, it's not my favorite looking notes list, but yeah, I'll give it a whirl. But it's really kind of surpassed what I had hoped for and what I expected.
Yeah,
and I love it.
I think it's a real gem. I desperately want to try the Chypre oud.
Yeah,
I'm going to sort of hope that crops up again. Although they might make a second batch if it's possible.
Well, it's interesting
if we can implore them.
Because actually, last time we filmed our video, they said I went to kind of look at it online, and it seemed to have disappeared. And I thought, oh, maybe it's gone forever. But they have now re-released it in this 40ml bottle, so possibly.
Which one? The Chypre oud?
No.
Oh, this one you mean? Yes, sorry.
One, yeah. Anyway, really
fingers crossed.
Amazing stuff. Really glad we tried it. I would love to hear about other people's experience with this house. Because I think there's much more to explore within this house and what these guys next do. It's exciting.
Absolutely
times.
wonderful.
But until next time, happy sniffing.